I think we're living through one of the greatest transfers of wealth and ownership in American history, and almost nobody is talking about it the right way. And I'm not talking about the stock market. I'm not talking about Bitcoin. I'm not even talking about politics. I'm talking about ownership. Every day we're flooded with headlines. Headlines like baby boomers are retiring. Businesses are coming up for sale. Millions of them. Housing affordability is changing as inflation hits and house prices go up. Private equity, they're exploding across the board in very niche categories. Artificial intelligence, man, you see that everywhere, transforming businesses, how to use it, what you should do. And builders are changing the way they build and how they go about building, how they go about taking down assets. And interest rates are moving. The feds are making announcements all the time, especially with the new Fed chair in place. And the media treats this all as separate stories. But guess what? I don't. I think they're all intertwined and they're all tied together. I think they're all connected. They're all telling us one thing. Capital is moving. Ownership is changing. And the entrepreneur who understands the shifts are going to build incredible wealth over the next decade. The entrepreneurs that don't, they're simply just going to watch it happen. And when I was in commercial banking, something happened that completely changed the way I looked at business. I realized that banks weren't actually really lending money. What banks were doing, they were evaluating risk. That sounds simple, but it's one of the biggest mindset shifts I had ever had. Banks don't wake up every morning trying to make loans. They wake up every morning trying to understand risk. Can a business repay? Can the management execute on what they're actually saying they're going to do? Are their financials even accurate in what they're providing me? And one of the most important things, are their assets even transferable? That realization changed everything for me. I changed how I value business. It changed how I advise entrepreneurs. And it's one of the reasons I'm so passionate about helping business owners prepare so they have, or they can get capital before they ever need it. You know, they always say you want to get money when you don't need it. You want to prepare for money when you don't need it as well. Because here's what I believe. The biggest problem isn't just the lack of money. The biggest problem is that businesses just aren't prepared at the end of the day. Over the years, I've watched entrepreneurs build incredible companies. I just looked at a restaurant the other day. Guy took it from nothing, built it out, doing over $1 million a year, doesn't have a P&L, doesn't have a balance sheet, can't point to his profit margins, but wants to sell his company. He's not prepared. Construction company, same thing. They have this great company and there's 2 or 3 guys that every decision runs through, and you can't get anything done unless you call that person and actually ask them what to do. Manufacturers, they're running into lean manufacturing problems. It's taking them too long to go from one process to another, and they're not evaluating that process and putting procedures in place. Professional practices, they're getting to later on in their retirement, but it's all around one guy. They didn't build a business. Service business the same way. There's so many of them that have one thing in common. They've all kind of built themselves a job, not an asset. They work for 60, 70 hours a week. They know every customer, they make every decision, they solve every problem, and guess what? They're absolutely exhausted. The one they decide that it's time to retire and they discover something super painful, the business depends entirely on them. Without them, the value disappears. That realization is heartbreaking to so many entrepreneurs, but it's also avoidable. After spending decades in banking, commercial real estate, business acquisitions, and lending, and I'm even an entrepreneur, I've come to define entrepreneurial value different than most people. Here's my hidden definition. Enterprise value. It's the accumulation of transferable assets. Let me say that again. Enterprise value is the accumulation of transferable value, not just revenue, not just profit, transferable assets, your systems, your documentation, your customer relations, your brand, your leadership team at the end of the day, your intellectual property, real estate, operating. I mean, it goes on and on. Financial history, everything that continues to create value, whether you're there or not. That's what buyers buy. That's what lenders evaluate. That's what investors invest in. That's what creates generational wealth at the end of the day. So here's a question I want you to think about. If I bought your business tomorrow, what would I exactly be buying? Would I be buying an asset or would I be buying a job? That's a difficult question, but it's one every entrepreneur should ask. So now I want to talk about capital because I think entrepreneurs think about financing completely backwards. Most spend their lives looking for one lender, one loan, one answer. But that's not how the financial system works anymore, and it's changed over the last 2 decades. Capital has become more like a toolbox. Think about it like this, like a contractor. They don't build an entire house with one tool. They use dozens of tools, a hammer, a drill, level, saw. Every single tool has a purpose. Business finance works exactly the same way. They have working capital, equipment financing, commercial real estate, seller financing. I can go on and on. SBA asset loans, private equity, lines of credit. They're not just competing with each other. They're completely different tools doing completely different jobs. And the future doesn't belong to the entrepreneur who knows one banker. It belongs to the entrepreneur who understands which financial tool fits their business problem. And that's a completely different way of thinking as an entrepreneur. One of the acquisitions I'm working on right now is a perfect example. There wasn't one lender that solved the entire transaction. We had to combine seller financing, existing debt, working capital, future refinancing. Different financial tools came together to actually get the acquisition done. Each one solved a different piece of the puzzle. And that's where businesses are heading. Not towards one financial solution, towards intelligently stacking the right capital at the right time. And that's why I actually think the financial system is becoming healthier, not because banks are disappearing, because they're specializing. Fintech companies are specializing. Equipment lenders are specializing. Private lenders are specializing. Banks continue to do what they do best. The system is becoming more efficient because everyone is getting better at one thing. The entrepreneur's job is understanding how those tools affect their business, not just why they can get approved. And so as you think about that, you want to take a step back and think about how you think about your business, how you're prepared, and what financial tools work best for your situation in your capital stack. So now I want to talk to you about AI because everybody has asked me, I can't go anywhere. Is AI replacing business owners? I don't think that's the right question at the end of the day. I think AI is going to organize businesses better than they've ever seen before. The real value isn't replacing people, it's replacing fragmentation. Most businesses today have documentation everywhere. Google Drive, Dropbox, QuickBooks, emails. Think of all the different places that you have to go. If somebody asks you, I need this, I need that. Where do you have to go? Your customer list. Financially, nothing talks to each other. Nothing's combined. Nothing's where you can say, I have everything in one place. And if you do, you're way ahead of the curve. So the owner becomes the integration layer. They have to go through the owner to access all of this stuff. And I think that's changing because documentation tells a story in a business. What do banks ask for? What do lenders ask for? What do investors ask for? They ask for documentation at the end of the day because the documentation tells a story. And the better documented, the better decisions. The better the financing, valuation, even the better the transition. And AI doesn't replace enterprise value. It reveals it, it organizes it, it preserves it, and eventually it helps multiply it. So where does all this leave us? I don't think the next decade belongs to the people chasing headlines. I think it belongs to the people building businesses worth owning. Businesses with transferable assets, businesses with organized financials, ones that have systems in place, organized documentation. This creates value beyond the founder. That's what creates freedom. That's what creates wealth. And that's what creates legacy at the end of the day. So I leave you with this one question. Will your business become an asset somebody wants to own? Or does it disappear the day you stop showing up? If today's conversation challenged the way you think about businesses, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you think about how people are chasing headlines and how the headlines are all real telling one story. which capital is adjusting and capital is changing across the board, and understanding that specialization and fragmentation are just tools that are more specifically used in your business. And if you're wondering whether your business is truly prepared for finance, growth, acquisition, or even an exit, that's exactly what I do to help entrepreneurs. I would say schedule a conversation with me. Let's evaluate your business together. And, I'd love to start building a strategy and a capital stack and a vision for you with your business to help you exit and have a legacy for everything you've done. Once again, thank you for listening to The Heartbeat of Money. I'm Jon P. Moffitt, and we'll see you next time.